I'm Deputy Chief Scott Breen. I want to thank and welcome everyone here this morning on our remembrance of the events of September 11th. I see Town Manager Stephen Astis. I thank you for coming. Selectman Robert Cohn, Retired Chief David Jardin and Ed Carroll, Retired Deputy Chief Paul Roach, Retired Captain Henry Chipman, many town employees, Deputy Chief Holmes from the Police Department with a contingent of police officers, and of course representatives here from Stoughton Fire. We're all proud to stand here today and have a small, short ceremony in remembrance of that tragic day for both the fire and police and our country. So we will start with our ringing of the bells, which is symbolic of lives lost in the fire service. And in conjunction with that, we'll be lowering our flag to half-mast.
Detail and cut. Present. Up. Order. Up.
Now we will have a 1 minute of silence, 1 moment of silence. Thank you. I would now ask Retired Deputy Chief Paul Roach to come up and lead us in a prayer.
Detail ready.
Yeah, just so they can hear that.
Almighty and ever-living God, we gather today to recall the sacrifice of those thousands of innocent victims of violence and hatred 16 years ago this morning. We particularly remember the deaths of the public servants, our brothers and sisters, the 60 police officers, and 343 firefighters from the city of New York, both on that day, as well as from any sickness or disease that befell subsequent casualties of the Police Department of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, NYPD, and FDNY. May all of them rest in your eternal peace, and may their families always feel their spirits present in their lives through communion with you and memories of the love they shared. Protect all current public servants from the dangers of their work as they serve you through service to others. We pray that the source of hatred and bigotry and violence based on different religious views, ethnicity, and perverse anger be eradicated, and that peace be the goal of all the nations of our world. These are the prayers of our hearts and the prayers of our lips. We ask you to hear them and heed them, if they be in accord with your will.
Thank you, Paul. I now ask firefighter Gio Rodriguez to come up and read the firefighter's prayer.
When I am called to duty, God, wherever flames may rage, give me strength to save a life. Whatever be its age, help me to embrace a little child before it is too late, or save an older person from the horror of that fate. Enable me to be alert, to hear the weakest shout, and quickly and efficiently put the fire out. I want to fill my calling and give the best in me to guard my neighbor and protect his property. And if according to your will, I have to lose my life, bless with your protecting hand my children and my wife.
Thank you, Gio.
Detail, sir. Present. Up. Order. Up.
I just want to do a brief timeline of the events from 16 years ago. As we can all remember, it was a day much like today, a beautiful sunny fall Tuesday morning. On a clear sunny late summer day in September of 2001, Al-Qaeda terrorists aboard 3 hijacked passenger planes carried out coordinated suicide attacks against the World Trade Center in New York City and the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., killing everyone on board the planes and nearly 3,000 people on the ground. A 4th plane crashed into a Pennsylvania field, killing all on board, after passengers and crew attempted to wrest control from the hijackers. Below is a chronology of the events of 9/11 as they unfolded. At 7:59, American Airlines Flight 11, a Boeing 767 with 92 people on board, takes off from Boston's Logan International Airport en route to Los Angeles. At 8:14, United Airlines Flight 175, a Boeing 767 with 65 people on board, takes off from Boston, is also headed to Los Angeles. 8:19, flight attendants aboard Flight 11 alert ground personnel that the plane has been hijacked. American Airlines notifies the FBI. At 8:20, American Airlines Flight 77 takes off from Dulles International Airport outside of Washington, D.C. The Boeing 757 is headed to Los Angeles with 64 people aboard. 8:24, hijacker Mohammed Atta makes the first of 2 accidental transmissions from Flight 11 to ground control, apparently in an attempt to communicate with the plane's cabin. At 8:40, the Federal Aviation Administration alerts North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD's Northeast Air Defense Sector, about the suspected hijacking of Flight 11. In response, NEAD scrambles 2 fighter planes located at Cape Cod's Otis Air National Guard Base to locate and tail Flight 11. They are not yet in the air when Flight 11 crashes into the North Tower. At 8:41 a.m., United Airlines Flight 93, a Boeing 757 with 44 people aboard, takes off from Newark International Airport en route to San Francisco. It has been scheduled to depart at 8 a.m. around the time of the other hijacks. 8:46, Mohammed Atta and the other hijackers aboard American Airlines Flight 11 crashed the plane into floors 93 to 99 of the North Tower of the World Trade Center, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside the building. At 8:47, within seconds, NYPD and FDNY forces dispatch units to the World Trade Center, while Port Authority police officers on site begin immediate evacuation of the North Tower. 8:50, White House Chief of Staff Andrew Carter alerts President George W. Bush that a plane has hit the World Trade Center. The president is visiting an elementary school in Sarasota, Florida at the time. 9:02, after initially instructing tenants of the World Trade Center's South Tower to remain in the building, Port Authority officials broadcast orders to evacuate both towers via the public address system. An estimated 10,000 to 14,000 people are already in the process of evacuating. 9:03, hijackers crash United Airlines Flight 175 into floors 75 to 85 of the World Trade Center's South Tower, killing everyone on board and hundreds inside the building. At 9:08, FAA bans all takeoffs of flights going to New York or through the airspace around New York City. At 9:21, the Port Authority closes all bridges and tunnels in the New York area. At 9:24, the FAA notifies NEADS of the suspected hijacking of Flight 77, after some passengers and crew aboard are able to alert family members on the ground. At 9:31, speaking from Florida, President Bush calls the events of New York City an apparent terrorist attack on our country. At 9:37, hijackers aboard Flight 77 crashed the plane into the western facade of the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., killing 59 aboard the plane and 125 military and civilian personnel inside the building. At 9:24, for the first time in history, the FAA grounds all flights over or bound for the continental United States. Some 3,300 commercial flights and 1,200 private planes are guided to airports in Canada and the United States over the next 2.5 hours. At 9:54, amid escalating rumors of other attacks, the White House and the U.S. Capitol building are evacuated, along with numerous other high-profile buildings, landmarks, and public spaces. At 9:59, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapses. 10:07, after passengers and crew members aboard the hijacked Flight 93 contact friends and families and learn about the attacks in New York and Washington, they mount an attempt to retake the plane. In response, hijackers deliberately crashed the plane into a field in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, killing all 40 passengers and crew on board. At 10:28, the World Trade Center's North Tower collapses, 102 minutes after being struck by Flight 11. 11 a.m., Mayor Rudy Giuliani calls for the evacuation of Lower Manhattan south of Canal Street, including more than 1 million residents, workers, and tourists, as efforts continue throughout the afternoon to search for survivors at the World Trade Center site. At 1 p.m., from a U.S. Air Force base in Louisiana, President Bush announces that U.S. military forces are on high alert worldwide. At 2:51 p.m., the U.S. Navy dispatches missile destroyers to New York and Washington, D.C. At 5:20 p.m., the 47-story 7 World Trade Center collapses after burning for hours. The building had been evacuated in the morning, and there are no casualties through the collapse, though the collapse forces rescue workers to flee for their lives. At 6:58 p.m. that evening, President Bush returns to the White House after stops at military bases in Louisiana and Nebraska. At 8:30 p.m., President Bush addresses the nation, calling the attacks evil, despicable acts of terror, and declaring that America, its friends and allies, would stand together to win the war against terrorism. So that was a brief timeline of the events of the day. Taking that further, I got an email this morning regarding how the events of that day continue to haunt the fire service and the city. Over 3,000 people have lost their lives since 9/11 due to cancer-related injuries from whether digging on the mound or the rubble and searching for their rescuers. So again, I ask everyone to keep memories of those days and the memories of the people that were lost that day in your thoughts and prayers, but also the thoughts and prayers to the responders that are still continue to be affected by that day. So with that, we will conclude our ceremonies. I thank everyone again for coming out. Gary Lewis from Honeydew Donuts has taken care of us with some coffee and donuts inside. We welcome everyone to stay, have a cup of coffee, enjoy some time together. Again, I thank you all for coming and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.